Hi, how are you? I'm sure you're doing well. It is holiday season, and I'm sure we have a lot of downtime to discuss a lot of things. My name is Cesarek, and I am here wishing you Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I think this is a discussion that we we are discussing it because it is a hot topic. Today they just released the results of our primary schools. I think the next one should be for the secondary schools. And I just sent a message, or I shared a message on my social media platform about what is wrong with our primary schools. I know most of you would agree with me that the performance over the last few years has really been going down. Our primary schools are doing extremely badly. Our secondary schools as well, even our public institutions, which is the universities, are not doing well either. And I mean, you look at a good example is Egerton University and Moi University. I mean, the institution itself is almost being closed because of very poor performance. Not lack of students or lack of professors, but we don't know what is really wrong with the public institutions. Same thing with one of the premier institutions for agriculture, that is Egerton University. Over the last few years, it has been one of the best. Actually, in East Africa, several students could come just to learn about agriculture, technology, food, and everything in Egerton University, but it has been performing poorly. So, and today when they released the results, and I'll quote a few examples. When they released the results for the primary schools, the private primary schools are doing amazing. I mean, the private primary schools, the private institutions, are showing results that are unlike the primary schools, the public primary schools. And I posted a question: Why? Why? What is the reason? I know things have changed. 20 years ago, when I was in primary school, the teachers were the best. The teachers did an amazing job to make sure that we passed, we succeeded. I mean, back then, private primary schools were not common. Private institutions were not common. But surprisingly, nowadays, primary schools are very common. And they're doing an exemplary work. And they're doing it against probably not even better working conditions. And I say not better working conditions because I have a lot of friends that work in both primary and secondary school that they teach. But if you hear what they earn as far as salaries is concerned and try to compare with the public officials working for the government institutions, it is day and night. They don't make money. I mean, some are paid as less as 10,000 a month. But they're in private schools that are producing results that really shocks you. So it brings the question, what is wrong with our public institutions? Let me say two things. I think also with the conversation of now changing curriculum to the CPC system, the country is going through a lot of turmoil. And when I say the country is going through a lot of turmoil, I think we may be setting a very bad direction for the country. I'm a private citizen. I'm just an ordinary citizen, to say. And I have no policy. I have no enough influence to maybe influence the policy changes in the government. But I'm just an opinion guy there. And I say there are certain areas that we have missed. And if we don't rectify, or if we don't in very short time prevent the bleeding in our public institutions, we may be educating half a generation that may not go anywhere, or we may be actually be digging a very deep hole in the country. What have we invested in? And I'm not blaming anyone on this. I think we have been having wrong priorities in our institutions. I mean, how many computer libraries have been built within your local township over the last 10 years? How many computer laboratories have been built in your school? How many laptops? Are you still relying on government to bring you laptops? Let me ask you a question. Are you still waiting for the government to bring you laptops to your community for your students to learn computers? How many charitable organizations are you still waiting for? Let me tell you something, man. If you don't look the education as a community thing, because we have wrong prioritization of projects. Yes, we have invested so much on the churches. We have spent billions and millions of money building churches. What are we doing for our kids? What are we doing for our future generations? How many laboratories do we have in Kapsawar? How many laboratories do we have in Eldoret? How many public libraries do we have in entire Marakwet community? Valid question. How many? Over the last 10, 15 years. How many community libraries do we have locally in your center? Now, juxtapose that with how much we have spent to build community churches. You know, it reaches a point where you start questioning yourself, are we really heading on the right direction? And then we want to compete. We want to compete with the finest in the world on IT. We can bring internet all the way in Baga village, lakini the students don't know how to even open a computer. We can bring we can bring every government infrastructure locally, but whatever we are producing locally is not adding up. So, my thoughts on this subject are in three key areas. Vitu tatu. If we want to change our education system, number one, I think it is the right time for parents to start getting involved in their kids' education. Parents, step up, man. Kama mwezi ku step up na kununulia watoto zenu ma computer, ma laptop, tablets, and everything, forget about government providing you these things. We tried that, it failed. Those are facts. The government brought tablets or there were laptops. They are still rotten somewhere in schools, never used. Software imekuwa obsolete. So parents, I'm just asking you, or if you are related to a parent, or if you are kids, step up on the education of your kids. The community. You know, when we were growing up, I say when we were growing up, Nasio Bali, just in late 90s. If you made a mistake in your local primary school, that was not a mistake by you. It was almost a mistake to the community, and you were disciplined properly. Well, as much as government policy has changed on discipline and everything, the community needs to step up in upbringing of their children, including investing in infrastructure. What are you doing as a community, as your community, to build a computer library within your school or within your locality? What are you doing as a township to build mobile reading centers or mobile libraries within your community? What is the local leadership doing to inspire people like Nacheserek or donate vitabu, to inspire people like Nacheserek or donate a laptop or a tablet to your local build library or laboratory? What are you doing? You know, it is not that solutions are not there for everything. It is just up to you to take care of things and to make sure that they are in place. So, as we are discussing education this evening, you know, if we really want to compete, with the rest of the world, we need to come up with complete different strategies on how to tackle education. And it starts basic, uko chini. You know, it starts from developing a reading culture, solving problems culture, mathematics, sciences. It starts with inspiring the youngest of the youngest generation to start having passions on certain things. You know, and I bring you to question something that I started way back in 2015, 2014, which I foresaw, and it is coming to fruition. I told the Marakwet people, let us inspire students to love science and mathematics. I donated over 10,000 geometrical sets to all primary schools, near all, I may not have done all, near all primary schools in Marakwet West, so that students would have that passion to do science and mathematics. No one has done that in the history of Marakwet education. Why? Because I understand the aspect of inspiring students to study science and mathematics. You guys saw what this lady called Nelly Jeboy did on computer Sugo Mogotio. There is no different what I started then, because I didn't continue, because at some point I wanted to be in that part of the leadership. but I inspired students to love science and mathematics. Now, it brings me to my third point. The stakeholders in education, the private sector, NGOs, community leaders. What can you do to change that in your community? What can you do to make a difference in your local center, in your local township, in your village, in your location, in your ward, or rather in the sub-county or the constituency? You know, if we don't sit down and start to imagine education in a different way, we are killing an entire generation of young people. We are killing an entire generation of Kenya, not in the war, but in the war to get knowledge. And that is why, as we close down this afternoon and we discuss about the terrible performance by our primary schools and why the private schools are doing way above what a primary school is doing with all the government resources, there is something fundamentally wrong that needs to be changed. But because education is local, education is a matter of a community, I want you to think, what can you do? What can we do? How can we partner together? Where can I be of help to you? Which ideas do you want? What do you want me to push? I can become a public opinion guy out there. What can I do? What can you do with your member of parliament? What can you do with your MCA? What can you do with your governor? You know, we have ECDs, which is the foundation. Can we just build buildings without anything inside, without learning materials, without developing a reading culture? What can we do together to change this education? You know, the world is so competitive. Let me finalize by saying this. The world is becoming so competitive, my friend. And technology in a change like that. Almost every 3, 4, 5 months, technology switches. Right now, the world is being led by computers. The future generation of guys, the future generation of jobs, the future generation of investments, the future things coming. If we are not smart enough to adapt to the pace of the world, we're not going anywhere. We will just be relying everything itolewa kwa wazungu, my friend. So I'm here to inspire you today in the evening that let us see what we can push for government. I'm not close to government. I wish I was part of the government. But I'm not. But I'm just an opinion leader out there trying to discuss what is wrong from an outside perspective. It is very complex world. Education is very complex. And that is why even in developed countries, I want you to listen to that. Even in developed countries, they have left it to the local government settings. The states determine the education system. The states determine the educations, what happens in local. It is not the federal government, it is not the national. The states determine what curriculum are taught to students, which section, when do they introduce computers to students, when do they introduce students to specific reading culture, to specific. And let me tell you, I can tell you, we are 50 years behind. We are 50 years behind the rest of the world. And I want to challenge you today. Talk with your leaders, talk with your community leaders, talk with your churches. Let us have a paradigm shift in the way we approach education this coming 10 years so that we can make Kenya a different place. Otherwise, thank you so much. My name is Chisarek, just a contributor in opinion to change the world to a better place. Thank you so much.